Chapter 1. A New Beginning. Aman was a young man from India. He had always dreamed of living in a big city. One day, he got a job offer from a company in London. Aman was excited but also a little scared. He didn't know English very well. He had learned some English in school, but it was not enough to talk fluently with people. A man decided to take the job. He packed his bags and said goodbye to his family and friends. His mother gave him a warm hug and said, "Remember to work hard, but don't forget to be kind." His father said, "Learn as much as you can, son. This is a big opportunity." Aman smiled and nodded. He was ready to start a new life. The flight to London was long. A man spent the time looking out of the window and thinking about his future. He felt a little nervous, but he also felt strong. When Aman landed in London, everything looked different. The streets were busy and the buildings were tall. People were speaking in English all around him. He could only understand a few words here and there. A man felt a bit lost. He took a taxi to his new apartment. The driver tried to talk to Aman, but Aman could not understand much. He just smiled and said, "Yes, yes." He felt embarrassed, but he knew he had to try. When Aman reached his apartment, he felt tired but happy. The apartment was small but clean. It was his new home. Aman looked out of the window and saw the city lights. "This is my new life," he thought. "I will do my best." That night, Aman couldn't sleep well. He kept thinking about how he would manage in London without knowing much English. He promised himself, "I will learn English. I will not give up." Chapter 2. First Day at Work. The next day, Aman woke up early. He was excited but also a bit scared about his first day at work. He got dressed in his best clothes and took the train to the office. The train was crowded, and Aman didn't know which station to get off at. He had to ask someone for help, but he was too shy. He looked at the map and tried to understand it. Finally, Aman reached his office. The building was big and modern. As he walked inside, he saw many people talking in English. His heart started to beat fast. He wished he could speak English like them. At the reception, the lady smiled at Aman and said something. Aman didn't understand. He felt his cheeks getting red. "Excuse me," he said. "I don't speak English well." The lady smiled again and spoke slowly. "It's okay. Welcome to the office. Please take a seat. Someone will come to help you." A man felt a bit better. He sat down and waited. Soon his new boss, Mr. Smith, came to meet him. Mr. Smith was a kind man. He shook Aman's hand and said, "Welcome, Aman. We are happy to have you here." Aman tried to smile and said, "Thank you." He wanted to say more, but the words were stuck in his throat. Mr. Smith showed Aman around the office and introduced him to his colleagues. They all smiled at Aman, but he could not understand most of what they were saying. Aman felt lost. He wanted to talk to them, but he didn't know how. He was afraid they might think he was not smart, but Aman remembered the promise he made to himself. He would learn English and get better. Chapter 3. Struggles with Language. Aman started his work, but it was not easy. His job involved reading emails, talking on the phone, and attending meetings. Most of the time, he didn't understand what people were saying. He felt frustrated. He was good at his work, but the language barrier made everything difficult. One day, Aman received an important email from a client. He tried to read it, but there were too many difficult words. He used an online translator, but the translation didn't make much sense. Aman felt like giving up. He was afraid of making a mistake. He went to Mr. Smith and said, "I don't understand this email. Can you help me?" Mr. Smith looked at the email and smiled. "Aman, it's okay to ask for help. We all need help sometimes. Let's go through this together." Aman felt relieved. Mr. Smith explained the email to him in simple words. Aman thanked him and promised to work harder on his English. In meetings, Aman tried to listen carefully, but he could only catch a few words. He felt left out when his colleagues laughed at jokes and he didn't understand them. Aman felt lonely. He missed home, where he could talk to people easily. But Aman didn't give up. Every day after work, he studied English. He watched English movies with subtitles, listened to English songs, and practiced speaking in front of the mirror. It was not easy, but Aman was determined. Chapter 4. A Friend's Help. One day, a man met a colleague named Sarah. Sarah noticed that a man was struggling with English. She came up to him and said, "Hi, Aman. I know learning a new language is tough. Would you like some help?" A man smiled and said, "Yes, please. I need help." Sarah started to help a man with his English. During lunch breaks, they would sit together and practice. Sarah taught a man new words and how to use them in sentences. She also corrected his mistakes gently. Aman felt grateful to have a friend like Sarah. With her help, he started to feel more confident. He began to understand more in meetings, and he even started to speak a little. His colleagues noticed his efforts and encouraged him. One evening, Sarah invited a man to her home for dinner. She wanted him to meet her family and practice more English in a relaxed environment. At dinner, Sarah's family was warm and welcoming. They spoke slowly so that Aman could understand. Aman felt happy. For the first time, he was able to have a conversation in English without feeling too nervous. He realized that learning a language was not just about studying. It was also about making friends and enjoying the process. Chapter 5. Overcoming Challenges. As months passed, Aman's English started to improve. He could now read emails without much trouble, and he could understand most of what was said in meetings. He was still not fluent, but he was getting better every day. One day, a man was asked to give a presentation to the team. He was nervous, but he knew this was a big opportunity. He prepared his presentation carefully and practiced speaking in front of Sarah. On the day of the presentation, Aman's hands were shaking, but he remembered his promise to himself. He took a deep breath and started to speak. At first, he stumbled over some words, but then he found his rhythm. He explained his ideas clearly, and his colleagues listened with interest. When Aman finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then everyone started clapping. Mr. Smith stood up and said, "Great job, Aman. You've come a long way." Aman felt a wave of relief and pride. He had done it. He had faced his fear and succeeded. That evening he called his parents and told them about the presentation. They were proud of him too. Aman knew he still had a long way to go, but he had made progress. He was no longer the scared man who had arrived in London months ago. He was learning, growing, and becoming stronger. Chapter 6. Finding a Community. Aman realized that learning English was not just about words. It was also about understanding the culture. He decided to explore more of London and meet new people. He joined a local English conversation club, where people from different countries came together to practice speaking. At the club, Aman met people who were going through the same struggles as him. They all supported each other. Aman made new friends from different parts of the world. They would share their stories, laugh together, and learn from each other. Aman also started to volunteer at a community center. He helped organize events and taught basic computer skills to elderly people. This gave him a chance to practice his English while giving back to the community. Through these activities, Aman felt more connected to London. He was no longer just a visitor. He was becoming a part of the city. His confidence grew, and he started to enjoy life more. Chapter 7. A New Challenge. Just when a man thought he was getting comfortable, a new challenge came his way. The company was planning to expand, and Mr. Smith asked Aman if he would be willing to take on more responsibility. This meant leading a small team and dealing with clients directly. Aman was excited, but also nervous. He still had doubts about his English. Could he handle this new role? He didn't want to disappoint Mr. Smith or his team. Aman decided to take the challenge. He spent extra time preparing for meetings, writing emails, and practicing his speaking skills. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to succeed. The first few weeks were tough. Aman made some mistakes, but he learned from them. His team was supportive, and they appreciated his efforts. Slowly, Aman began to feel more comfortable in his new role. He started to enjoy the work and even found himself looking forward to meetings. He was building relationships with clients, and they trusted him. Aman's hard work was paying off. Chapter 8. A Man's Success. A year had passed since a man moved to London. He looked back at his journey and felt proud of how far he had come. His English had improved greatly, and he was now confident in his work and social life. He had made new friends, overcome many challenges, and built a life for himself in London. One day, Mr. Smith called Aman into his office. Aman wondered what it was about. Was there another challenge waiting for him? But when he walked in, Mr. Smith was smiling. "Aman," he said, "I want to congratulate you. You've done an excellent job this past year. The company is very pleased with your work. We would like to offer you a promotion." Aman was surprised and delighted. He couldn't believe how much his life had changed in just 1 year. He thanked Mr. Smith and accepted the promotion. It was a proud moment for him. That evening, Aman celebrated with Sarah and his other friends. They all congratulated him and told him how much he had grown. A man knew that this was just the beginning of his journey. He was excited to see what the future would hold. Chapter 9. A Visit Home. A few months later, Aman decided to visit his family in India. He hadn't seen them since he moved to London, and he missed them dearly. He wanted to share his success with them and show them how much he had learned. When Aman arrived home, his parents were overjoyed to see him. They noticed how much more confident and happy he seemed. Aman told them all about his life in London, his friends, his job, and how he had learned to speak English better. His parents were proud of him. They could see that Aman had become stronger and more independent. His mother said, "Aman, we always knew you would do well. You have made us very proud." Aman spent the next few weeks enjoying his time with his family. He visited old friends and shared stories of his life in London. Everyone was amazed at how much he had changed. Aman felt grateful for the opportunity to grow and learn. Chapter 10. Looking Ahead. After his visit home, Aman returned to London with a renewed sense of purpose. He was ready to take on new challenges and continue his journey. He knew that life would always have ups and downs, but he was no longer afraid. He had learned that with hard work, determination, and the support of friends, anything was possible. Aman continued to excel in his job. He took on more responsibilities, led his team with confidence, and even started mentoring new employees. He was now the person who helped others, just as Sarah had helped him when he first arrived in London. In his free time, Aman volunteered at the community center and continued to attend the English Conversation Club. He wanted to give back and help others who were learning English just like he had. As the years went by, Aman built a successful career and a fulfilling life in London. He never forgot where he came from or the struggles he faced when he first arrived. Those experiences made him stronger and more compassionate. Aman knew that learning and growing were lifelong journeys. He was excited to see where life would take him next. But no matter where he went, he would always remember the promise he made to himself on his first night in London, to never give up, no matter how hard things might seem. And so, a man's journey continued, filled with new adventures, new challenges, and new opportunities. He was ready for whatever the future held, knowing that he had the strength and courage to face anything that came his way. The end.